I will just tell her to read the history of Kamodo, JJ. JJ Kamodo was the noisiest politician that this country had ever produced. And he had come from Mount Kenya region. He was the Kikuyu. He was occupying the highest office from that region at one point in the life of this country. But he never became the kingpin of Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya people do not really be allowed a person because of the office you occupy. They will less respect the office you occupy. But the fact that you are the highest occupant of a public office does not translate into kingship. Kingship has something to do with the moral authority, moral integrity. It comes from the people themselves, and they slowly come and eventually recognize, and they never go to a ceremony to declare you. And it is even never done through any kind of pronouncements, but the person sits and attracts people. That's how we got into the Kibakis, the Karumes, the Michukis of yesteryears. And it has everything to do with what you stand for, and how people view you. So the new era, thinking that because one is occupying the office of the deputy president, you now become the king of Mount Kenya. That is far from the truth. But that does not mean that I stop them from pursuing that right. It's also another, they have their right to think that way. One is that if you think you get control of Central by killing parties, read the history of Moi. He killed all parties and left Kanu. In fact, he even made it a constitutional provision that we are now a one-party state. Before de facto, he made it jury. And but we still went over it. So don't think that you can put the people of Mount Kenya under a block of thinking or monolithic thinking by killing political parties. They will still emerge through other ways. On the issues of political party space, without doubt, we can see it being taken away by these fellas, the people who are in power illegitimately. What have they done even before raiding the parties? The immediate thing they did was to stop the funding of political parties. They have stopped the register of political parties from giving any money. They have not allowed her to access money from treasury. And one of the things that we provided in the constitution is to ensure for us to be able to put the government of the day at a check, fund the political parties, avoid them going fundraising every day. What he has done is denied us any funding towards that end. To the point where we have officers in our political parties who have not been paid salaries from us from the month of August last year. So they are making it very difficult. Survival is very, very difficult for those of us who are within these political parties. The next thing that he has done is, of course, those parties within his own outfit. He's completing the exercise of strangling them. You saw Moses Kuria coming with his legs and hands up, saying, "I have given up my party." Others are also on queue. Musalia resigned from his political unit. So, by all definition, it's also over. You will never hear him talk about ANC. Look at for the Kenya. He's also being pushed out of it. So he's now reaching out to Jubilee. Is of course one of his other things he said is that Jubilee, in fact, he wants to kill Jubilee, he wants to kill Wiper. He said the only party that he wants outside there is ODM. He wants to kill Jubilee and he wants to kill Wiper. But I can tell you that the spirit of Jubilee and even that of Wiper is beyond what he may want to imagine. We are fighting for the space the same way we were fighting 1992 all the way 1982 all the way to 1992 to 2000. Only that we now have a new constitution that gives you a highway to fight for them. If we don't continue with this fight, we will actually lose everything that is in our constitution.
Are you saying Ruto will run us out of town if we don't do that?
If we don't come together to start against this regime, Ruto and his other guy will get the hell out of people in this town. We will not believe it. And it will go down so quickly in an unbelievable one. The only fortunate thing today Unlike those days, it's like we have the social media. So people are able to take part in the Kamkuji rally, in the Jakaranda rally, even when they are seated in Mombasa, they are in Bungoma, they are in Nyeri, they are in Nyandarua, they are in Nakuru, in Turkana, all corners of this country. When that rally was happening yesterday, though they were denied live coverage substantially, they were part of it. They are part of it. So getting Ruto out of our way will be a shorter and a quicker exercise than what it did with us with Moi. One is that even in the wording of that provision of the statute, that provision is unconstitutional because it seeks to limit your freedom of the things that you can do while you are alive. Freedoms that are given to you by the Almighty, not by any created being. We only state them in the Constitution. But these are your rights, inherent rights that you are given when you are created by God. So it's trying to limit the political activity of a person, whether he is a former president or an aspiring president or a former vice president or an aspiring prime minister, is really unconstitutional. Those are provisions that were informed by the political environment then, but they're not well thought out. Secondly, they are the same provisions that apply to the Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, and the former Vice President, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, and also Mheshimiwa Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, and maybe one other person. You should also have included those who are aspiring, so that I was also getting covered. But you have already given examples. Either Musalia, Kalonzo, and Raila, they are either receiving the benefits because that provision may have been overlooked, and if they are not receiving, it's because they still felt they have something to offer to the country. But whichever way, the latter holds that they are still active in the political scene because they believe there is a good that they can bring to this country while they still are politically active. And the same will apply to President Uhuru Kenyatta. He will choose to exercise his decision, exercise his right on that matter by, and I know what to guide him. The fact that why he learned for this country is because it's not because there was a salary. It's because he knew there was something he could do, and those who have eyes can see that he has done more than anybody would have thought he can do. So the same principle will inform you. It is not the monetary issue. It is a question of, is there something I can still help this country to move on with, given where we are, and given his age, his ability, he's been given strength by God. He's still a strong person, and a person with very strong conviction. The issue of hardship, the philosophy behind the hardship is beyond any personal benefit that you'd want Raila or Uhuru to take and abandon what they believe in. If I am asked, they should not exit the political scene. And I can tell you, it is a major loss of the gains that we have gotten. This tribunal, their work is to fight guilt with the four. That's why he picked them alone. Because if it was a collect thing, he would have invited others to bring people with a different mindset. How on earth would a commissioner of 7, 3 people hold this view, 4 hold the other? And we have always known that the rule of the majority is the one that will prevail. How did you end up with the 3 and not the 4? One of the other thing about this commission is to try and sanitize the legitimacy of the government, of the people that we have there. Because if he doesn't deal with the 4, then his legitimacy will continue hanging around there. So he wants to remove the 4 so that he can then try and gain public legitimacy. He's actually looking for legitimacy from the public by killing the commission, going to churches and asking people, you are looking for legitimacy in the open forum, because you never got it through the ballot. So these are issues that will always be done by people who feel foreign in the offices that they are in, so that William Ruto ends up with an empty basket or bucket, and he can now form his own William Ruto Electoral Commission, Boundaries Commission. Exactly what Moi was doing before we gave ourselves a new constitution. So he's used provisions in our constitution that provisions that were meant to sanitize the whole process. They were meant for an ordinary Kenyan to oversight those institutions. The formation of a tribunal was never in the minds of those who crafted the constitution. It was never a tool available to the executive. It was for Kenyans to oversight these independent institutions.